Oh, hi. This isn't a Christmas video. But I know, I'm wearing the hat, I have the beer, everything, but I wanted this video to come out in October. And then life got weird. So, just enjoy this Fiction Addiction video that is not even remotely holiday related. And have a happy holiday anyway. See ya. You know, with Ghostbusters Afterlife having come out recently, and by recently I mean about a month ago, I started thinking about how few Ghostbusters games actually exist. Or rather, how many good ones actually exist. Now, we all know that the angry video game nerd made the officially licensed Ghostbusters games and their ports infamous a long time ago, but there's also the pretty cool Sega Genesis one, and a Game Boy game based on the real Ghostbusters cartoon. However, aside from a series of extreme Ghostbusters games and one 2006 mobile game, that still means that between 1993 and 2009, a whopping 16 years, no major console games based on the original films were made. And that is just baffling to me. It's an extremely well-known franchise, it's full of great characters, it's basically about blasting monsters with laser rifles, and yet despite all that, nobody took a stab at making a video game based on it for 16 years? It should have been a no-brainer! For a long time, the closest anyone got was Luigi's Mansion, and while I think that's an awesome and delightful game, it obviously didn't quite have some of the grit that Ghostbusters did have, comedy film or not. But there was one other game that tried to fill the void. Ghost Hunter on the PS2, released in Europe in 2003 and North America in 2004. It was a game starring a realistic looking human running around decked in high-tech ghost hunting gear, catching spirits in traps, almost exactly like the Ghostbusters. This looked just like what people had been missing. From what I understand, this game has a bit of a cult following and is considered somewhat of an underrated gem on the PS2. And I mean, I remember borrowing it from my local library and really enjoying it while I played it. But I also remember never beating it and never borrowing it again. So, why don't we pop it in and see if I missed out on anything? In Ghost Hunter, you take the role of the smart-mouthed rookie police officer, Lazarus Jones. Now, how do I know that this guy is a smart-mouth? Well, that's because he's voiced by none other than Mr. Baloney in his slacks, Rob Paulsen.
Is that all?
Uh-huh. Apart from a bunch of Twilight Zone crap. Yep, I definitely ordered thin crust. This professor sure did program you to nag, didn't he? I mean, he could have taught you to smile or sing country and western, but oh no. Well, Colonel, just what exactly are you doing here, playing soldiers in this jumped-up bathtub?
You don't say much when you're nervous, do you? Because I'm quite the opposite. I'm calm. You notice that? Yes?
Yakko Warner didn't live for nothing, that's for damn sure. It's certainly a more fitting casting choice than freaking Donald Duck, though. That one still weirds me out. Why do I keep running into PS2 games that have you in them, Paul? Lazarus joins his partner Anna Steele in investigating a disturbance at the local Montsay High School, where several students were murdered years ago and which is now rumored to be haunted. Or at least it's gotta be haunted if Lazarus keeps waving his gun around like that. Jesus, Lazarus, what the hell kind of cop are you? Holster the damn thing! Anyway, it doesn't take long for Lazarus to start hearing spooky voices, and upon investigating further, he finds a secret underground lab run by an advanced AI created by a Professor Richmond. A smart-ass advanced AI.
Hey! Hey! Can you hear me?
Estimate, you can be heard in Texas.
The AI informs Lazarus that what he just accidentally opened up was a containment unit full of malevolent spirits captured by Professor Richmond. This attracts the attention of a medieval night ghost named Hawksmoore, who soon kidnaps Officer Steele. Lazarus then outfits himself with ghost hunting equipment from the lab and sets out to find Richmond, rescue Steele, and recapture the spirits that have returned to their old haunting grounds. All with a little help from the AI and a mysterious silent ghost woman called Astral.
Fine, you go ahead and laugh, Astral. Just remember, I never exactly invited you inside.
Hey, phrasing!
In terms of gameplay, Ghost Hunter is a third-person shooter where you use your rifle to shoot. So hold on a second. It's a third-person shooter where you play as a regular guy who gets roped into fighting hordes of villains by a hidden AI. Oh God, it's a PK sequel in disguise! No, but seriously, the game is, as you would expect from a non-copyright infringing Ghostbusters game, a third-person shooter where you move through the stages, climbing platforms and hiding behind obstacles, all while blasting and catching any ghost you find on the way with various types of high-tech weaponry. Now, half the fun of Ghostbusters lies in their equipment. You know, the traps, the PKE meter, the proton pack. So let's take a look at what Lazarus has to work with. Most of the time, you'll be using your basic ghost energy-fueled pulse rifle, substituting the proton beams. Using this, you damage the ghosts until they can be safely captured with your ghost grenade, along with any stray ammo and health pickups. You also get a sniper rifle for long-distance takedowns and a health-sapping spectral lasso that I never used, cause you get it super late in the game and it costs way too much energy to bother with. Now, since your pulse weapons run on the same ghost energy that enemies drop when they get shot, you do in theory have unlimited ammo. But should you ever run out, you have your Glock 17 and a shotgun to work with. They can't truly hurt most enemies, but they do make them drop ghost energy all the same so you can refuel. And since your Glock somehow has unlimited ammo, this means you always have a backup in case things get dicey. And finally, there's the grenade launcher that you can use to, clear out blocked paths that you could have removed by hand in 5 minutes. Like, maybe twice in the entire game. Oh, and it also makes Poltergeist visible by throwing smoke grenades, I guess. Yeah, that thing kinda sucks, actually. This definitely isn't Resident Evil 1. Hi. Bye. Now that might sound like a lot, but the game actually has a pretty cool control scheme that keeps everything manageable. Switching weapons is as simple as holding down L and choosing them from a wheel using the right thumbstick, so it's easy to switch weapons on the fly. And rather than just have you run around and blasting blindly, the game gives you 2 different shooting modes to work with. One tap of the R1 button puts you into firing mode, making you move slightly slower but giving you a crosshair so you can better aim at the enemies. Pressing triangle then activates first person mode, where you can't move around at all, but get a much more precise shot. This is really damn good to use with the sniper rifle. Pressing X while in first person mode then activates the spectral goggles, allowing you to see the outlines of some faraway ghosts along with their health bars, which makes it even more useful. So, yeah, what do you know? This actually controls really well and it can be really fun to play. With emphasis on can. Because it can also get really tedious and frustrating. You see this? Me just running ahead, blasting things left and right? That's almost the entire game. And it only rarely shakes things up. Now, before I rag on the game a bit, let me just say that the areas you end up exploring here are huge and thematically super cool. You end up exploring an abandoned school, a creepy swamp, a genuine haunted house, a military ship, a cruise liner, a prison, and even a secret military base. So you really do get to go to some interesting places. I mean, the game's maps are kind of impressive for a PS2 game. They're also really long and empty. No, seriously, for every room full of spook for you to shoot at, there's likely to be a long hallway or a large open space with almost nothing in it. Sure, every now and then you might have to press a switch or climb over some junk, but that doesn't really do anything to vary the landscape. And each stage is long, so you're likely going to get a bit sick of looking at swamp shacks or prison cells pretty quickly. Yeah, for as cool as some of this stuff is, it gets old fast, man. But wait a minute, didn't I say you have a ghost partner? Surely she has to break up the gameplay a little, right? Kind of, but it's honestly just more of the same. Every now and then you find a ghost circle where you can summon your ghost helper Astral, who can float around the place and use various abilities gained from certain captured ghosts in order to affect the world around her. Since she can fly and go underwater, she can reach areas you normally can't in order to, for example, turn solid and flip a switch, possess a ghost, or destroy obstacles. Which, now that I think about it, makes the grenade launcher even more useless for anything other than throwing smoke at poltergeists. Wonderful! The problem is that you have no freedom with this since it only happens in set locations, and you're still in the same large empty spaces, except now you don't even have enemies you can shoot at, so you just end up flying around aimlessly for a while until you find the thing you're supposed to interact with. And some of these abilities are used so rarely that I don't even remember what some of them do anymore. So what's supposed to be a unique game mechanic really just ends up feeling like a huge waste of time. Oh, and by the way, did I mention that she needs ghost energy taken from the same pool as Lazarus' ammo to perform these tasks? Yeah, that means it's entirely possible to get stuck with next to no energy to do that thing you need to do, or end up with way less ammo once you're done flipping switches or throwing chairs around. And as for in-game enemies, boy do I have some choice words for a few of those. Plenty of the enemies have pretty cool designs, from these basic blue spooks to ghost soldiers and demonic looking teddy bears, and they do all require different approaches. For example, poltergeists are invisible until you use a smoke grenade, revenants are tough brutes, and you can't actually catch these crocodile headed redneck dudes and just have to shotgun them to hell. So points for variety on that part at least, but some of these enemies are a lot more annoying than others. Snipers, for instance, are your worst nightmare. These guys always see you from far away and shoot fast and hard, so by the time you got them in your sight from behind a hiding spot, they've already shot you like 4 times before you get one hit in. And the game just loves to put tons of them in the same room, so whenever you hear sniper shots, you know you're in for a shitty time. And then there's the black ghosts, or as I like to call them, an absolute bitch to hit! These things are the bane of my fucking existence. Look how they sip all over the place. Hitting them with your grenade is a nightmare since it's a throwing weapon that needs to travel a bit. And they love hiding behind walls and only staying still right when you need to reload your gun. Every single encounter with these assholes is just a test of my goddamn patience. And every time I see them, I can't help but go, God no, not this shit again! Okay, so far the game is just kind of an average third-person shooter with the occasional bit of annoyance, so why am I even still playing? Well, that's because on occasion the game remembers that it's a ghost story. And that's where it gets good. For example, early in the game during the swamp level, you visit a house called the de Montfort Mansion run by this crazy bitch.
I'll use this gun to defend my virtue, young stranger. Make no mistake about it.
Whoa, lady, easy. I'm just here for the ghosts. No, not like that, you perverts. Then later on, you revisit a more ghostly and warped version of this same mansion, where you chase this little ghost girl around who keeps sticking demonic teddy bears at you. Here you have to do things like find clues to figure out when and how the girl died, and then reconstruct a painting that works as a gateway to an even darker version of the mansion, which is full of all sorts of creepy decorations and weird rooms. This is the part of Ghost Hunter that feels the most like you're actually hunting ghosts, and it's a lot of fun. There's another moment much later in the prison where you learn about an executed prisoner named Frank Aglin, who murdered his wife due to being manipulated by Hawksmoore. And you briefly see visions of his ghostly memories, where you get to see some really grisly and surreal stuff. Just take a moment to use your UV light and look at the drawings in his surviving daughter's room, and you get one of the creepiest moments in the whole game. Moments like these are brilliant, and they really make me wish more of the game was like this. And I will give the game this, it knows its audience. I know I called the levels large and empty, and they are, but if you look around, you can still find the occasional reference to horror media. Mother just goes a little mad sometimes. Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. You also do meet some fun characters along the way, like this World War II captain here who gamers my age might find somewhat familiar.
Colonel Freddie Fortescue, 3rd Regiment Royal Horse Artillery at your service.
Not that there's anything clever about shooting someone in the eye, sir.
There's also the ghost librarian at the school who's good for a chuckle or two just for how stereotypically stuffy she is. Just, be careful when you ask her about Hawksmoore's backstory. She might get a little too excited. Professor Richmond himself is also a lot of fun when you actually do find him. Him and Lazarus have such a great wisecracker straight man dynamic, it's a shame it happens so late in the game, because it's super entertaining. It really makes me wish they'd been a team the whole time. And who can forget that most beloved of classic horror character archetypes? The dumbass rednecks.
Junior, you better not be a goner. Bring him here.
Oh, Pa, I feel tired I couldn't even poo.
Just bring him.
And now we know what a PG-rated Rob Zombie movie would sound like. And of course, what is a PS2 action game, especially one that's trying to be Ghostbusters, without some big spooky boss ghosts to fight? Before I even talk about how these boss fights play though, I gotta give the game props for making most of them pretty interesting in terms of story and design. Each stage has plenty of documents or voice recordings you can find detailing their backstory, and while most of them aren't really connected to the main plot, I honestly think they're very cool. The first boss, for instance, is the ghost of a young man named David de Montfort, who died saving a young girl from an alligator attack, and now he takes the form of a giant monster man with an alligator attached to his arm. The second boss is Captain Kraken, a Nazi Navy general whose soul turned into some kind of abomination after he stole an occult artifact called the Dagger of Poseidon. You also get to fight the ghost of the previously mentioned Frank Aglin, who has gained electric powers after being sentenced to the chair, and then there's this junk golem piloted by a bunch of poltergeists. That last one has basically no plot relevance, no build-up, and no backstory, but come on, look at it! It's really cool. I gotta give some points for variety and concept at least. The first boss, the Swamp Phantom, is a very simple fight, but it sure is a memorable one. After spending some time dodging the ghost alligator's attacks, it actually vomits David back up in what has to be the gnarliest moment in the game. After that, you have to get them to attack the statue raised in David's honor, which causes them to separate. From there, all you really have to do is get between them and get them to fight each other a few times before you can catch them. It's a super easy fight and it's over very quickly, but I just love the way it uses their backstory as part of the battle strategy. That's some good stuff right there. Then there's Captain Kraken. This boss can go tap dance in a minefield! Once again, conceptually, it's awesome. Captain Kraken has turned into some huge monstrosity and crashes through the floor of a ballroom. And with some help from your ghost soldier friend Fortescue, you have to blow up ammunition shells that get stuck in its mouth in order to release and trap Kraken's human soul. It's just too bad that everything else about the fight sucks! Not only is the shell really hard to see, but Kraken whips about all over the place and keeps hammering away at you with tentacles and projectiles. So you're pretty much stuck just firing blindly at his mouth and hoping you get lucky. And the human soul floats up towards the ceiling, so when you're aiming at it, you can't see incoming attacks. Or the soul itself for that matter, because Kraken is so goddamn huge he takes up most of the screen. I basically only won this fight by cheesing it and finding a safe spot behind the stairs where the fireballs couldn't reach me. Oh yeah, that's what you want to do when you're playing as a badass ghost hunter, right? Just hide from the abuse under the stairs like you're Harry Potter between semesters. Oh, it gets better. Every time you die, you come back to this checkpoint and have to rewatch 3 cutscenes in a row before you can fight him again. Oh, and the middle cutscene is unskippable because, I don't know, you touch yourself at night or something. Why? Why an unskippable cutscene between 2 skippable ones? Will I not understand the plot unless I see his face? Will I be incapable of comprehending the intricacies of this tightly woven story unless I closely inspect every single wrinkle in this man's jowls? Next up is Frank Aglin, the prisoner I mentioned earlier, and his fight is underwhelming. At first you just need to distract him for a while so he doesn't electrocute Richmond, after which you chase him into this generator room where you have to destroy these 3 generators before you can damage him. You have to do this by shooting the control panels, but where the fuck are they? Seriously, where? I'm shooting everywhere, why is nothing happening? Would one of you kind people out there please tell me how I was supposed to know that that's the part I should shoot at? Seriously, couldn't you like make it flash or stick out of the machine or have a different color or something? Whatever, it's a decent fight I suppose, nothing too special. Then there's the junkyard golem.
This doesn't look good. No. I mean, I'm all for recycling, but, yeah. Any ideas? No. Not even a name like, Maximus Heapus Junkus? No.
Oh man, I love these two. Anyway, Heapus Junkus Maximus here is pretty simple actually. You just gotta nail the 3 poltergeists controlling it. One's this literal crotch gremlin, the other then appears on the shoulder, and finally there's a 3rd one on his back. The shoulder one can be a real pain to hit, but it's really not too bad. The second phase is much worse, though admittedly I got there with very low health, so that didn't help. In this phase, you have to wait for Richmond to shine a UV light on it so you can actually see the poltergeist on the shoulder, but it's really aggressive about shooting these massively damaging fireballs at you until then. Thankfully, it stands still for a moment after firing, which makes the poltergeist way easier to hit with your trap. I admit it took me a while to figure that one out though. Now, there is of course still the last fight with Hawksmoore, and I will get to that in a bit, but let's just say that the story gets kind of wild after you find Richmond, and well, I'll do my best to recap. So it turns out that Richmond was actually a paranormal researcher in a secret military organization along with Kate Heller, the woman who would later become Astral after an accident researching astral travel. She then fused with him the same way she later did it with Lazarus, and they started catching ghosts to research them further and find a way to return Kate to her body. When Richmond then caught Frank Aglin, he also got the attention of the spirit of the sadistic Hawksmoore, who was influencing Aglin and caused him to murder his wife in the first place. Hawksmoore then manipulated the heads of the research team by promising to tell them more about ghosts and astral travel, if they gave him the body of Kate Heller and disposed of Professor Richmond so he could claim her spirit as well, since, according to him, she is the chosen one. So what does that mean exactly? I don't know, the game never tells you. So then Richmond fled and started a new identity as a high school professor, but that only led to Hawksmoore following him and causing the school murders mentioned at the start of the game. Then Richmond ended up hiding out back at the prison in order to keep Hawksmoore away from the school, at least until Lazarus found the lab and fused with Astral, setting the plot of the game in motion. So did you guys get all that? Cause I didn't. What's the chosen one? Why does Hawksmoore want Steel? Who are the disembodied voices he's talking to in that one scene? None of that is explained to the player, and yet the game still gets crazier. Richmond eventually betrays Lazarus for reasons, leaving him to get shot by the Hawksmoore possessed steel, killing him on the spot. And that's where shit gets really bonkers. Richmond's AI then transfers itself into a hilariously goofy-looking robot body straight out of RoboCop and sends it in to not just give Richmond an epic fuck you speech, but also throw Lazarus's body into a convenient resurrection machine that was originally intended to reunite Kate Hiller's body and spirit. The robot quickly gets destroyed, but once Lazarus returns to life, which I don't know if you noticed, but that's a very subtle bit of character naming on the writer's part there, he gets equipped with a new pulse rifle by a now somehow good again Richmond and blasts away at Hawksmoore. In what has to be the laziest final boss fight I've seen in years. You know how all those other boss fights were, if not great in terms of gameplay, at least interesting and unique? Well, not good old Hawksy here. Much like the two other fights you have with him during the game, all he does is send a bunch of flunkies at you. And since you don't have to waste time trapping them and can just blast them until they implode now, you just plow your way through waves and waves of enemies you fought countless times throughout the game until Hawks himself finally becomes vulnerable so you can shoot him. All you really have to do is dodge a couple fireballs and you're done. What an astonishingly epic way to end things, right? Richmond then sacrifices himself, destroying Hawksmoore's spirit with an experimental weapon called a Zero Bomb, and Lazarus and Steel return home, pondering how to report all that happened when they get back to the station. And while they're doing that, I'll ponder what the hell happened to Astral after all this, since the game doesn't bother to actually tell you. The end. Okay, so, Ghost Hunter. What an uneven beast this is. Look, Ghost Hunter isn't a bad game. By all accounts, it's actually pretty good. It has a nice sense of humor, interesting enemy designs, and solid gameplay. It is, however, a but game, in the sense that everything good about it comes with a but. The gameplay is fun, but it has too many monotonous segments that go on for too long. The levels are impressive to look at, but they are needlessly huge and empty. The cutscenes are funny and the story is actually kind of interesting, but it's full of holes and badly explained, and it's spaced out too far by ultimately pointless segments. So on, so forth. If you're not here mostly for the shooty pew pew parts, then you're gonna find yourself exasperated on occasion. And you better like what you get, because it's all you get. There are no unlockables, no collectibles, no extra endings, no new game modes, not even alternate costumes. Nothing. It is truly a one and done adventure. Now, to compare Ghost Hunter with Luigi's Mansion again, one of the main criticisms I hear about this game is that it's too short, since you can somewhat comfortably beat it within 6 to 7 hours. I, on the other hand, think it just knows when to stop and realizes it wouldn't stay fun if it dragged on for too long. Now, sure, you only play for about 6 hours, but you're always chasing a boo, solving a puzzle, or exploring a new room. Ghost Hunter, on the other hand, is the opposite. It's so convinced that its 10 to 11 hours of walking straight ahead and shooting things are so fun that everything else is secondary. But that's just not the case. Now, don't get me wrong though. If you think this looks fun, you're probably gonna enjoy yourself. It is a pretty good game at the end of the day. I just personally think it could stand to trim the fat a little bit and find a better balance between the ghost part and the hunter part of its premise. But, you know, that's just me. And with that said, thanks so much for watching, guys, and see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey folks, and thanks for watching me talk about Ghost Hunter. Special thanks go to Andreas Wilsom, Pocket Mouse, Silvermoon Ravenwolf, Spatial Paladin, and Warren Miller, as well as all my other patrons for supporting my work. Thank you so much. If you would like to support me too, you can find links to my Patreon, Ko-fi, and TeePublic pages in the description below. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for many more videos about much more weird, semi-obscure media. See you then, everybody, and bye-bye.